Welcome everybody to I think this is our third weekly webinar about the platform trial. We're happy to see people who have been here before and new people. Just a few things that I wanted to say. First of all, I'm Merit Sokovich. I'm the director of the HEALEY Center for ALS at Mass General Hospital, and with Sabrina are co-leading the platform trial. We every month for one of our weekly calls, we invite people who are supporting the platform trial from different foundations, different groups, and they're supporting them in many ways with advice as well as with financial support. So today we've invited Troy Green from Tackle ALS and Peter Foss from ALS Finding a Cure, and you'll get to hear from them. And then we have a few updates and then time for Q&A. Next slide, please. As you know, it really took a community to pull together the first ALS platform trial, and we're very thankful to everybody that works together. And that really started with the patient voice to help us design a trial that was that kept the patient at the center and also allowed us to get an answer to these treatments in a short time. Our great site investigators throughout North America and the NEALS Consortium, our industry partners. And we've really, from the beginning, had a partnership with the FDA about how to do this in the best way. And because of all that, we were able to launch, minus a couple extra months because of COVID, we were able to launch in July of 2020. And we're very excited that the study is enrolling very well. Next slide, please. So it's besides a community to help design it in a really good way, we've really getting a lot of support from many groups, including obviously the initial HEALEY gift, and then you're going to hear from Tackle ALS and ALS Finding a Cure. And last month we heard from the ALS Association, but we really couldn't do this without many groups coming together and both on the foundation end as well as our industry partners and our academic partners. So I really view this as a huge community effort to change how trials are being done so that we can get answers much faster and more definitively and get treatments to people much faster. So with that, next slide, please. I would love Troy to tell us a little bit about him and his family and Tackle ALS.
Thank you, Merit. So really, Tackle ALS was more of a mentality for us. We kind of switched from being on defense with ALS to trying to get on the offensive. And really, when we met with Dr. Skovich and her team, we saw that this was the way, really gave us hope. And one of the things that we get excited about when we're raising funds for Tackle ALS, which all goes to MGH and the Master Platform Trial, is the hope that it brings to families like ours. Because ALS is a scary thing for most people, and if you don't have a team like Merit has in your corner, it's a lot scarier. So this is a way to kind of turn the tide and make it so we actually felt pretty positive and upbeat. And really, like I said, hope was the biggest thing for us. And the second part of it was really, this seemed like something that everybody could get behind and support. So ALS is a very fragmented community. Everyone has different methods and different things they're raising funds for. This felt like something that everybody could get behind. So we were happy to be a part of it, and anything that Merit does, we're happy to support.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you very much. And then Peter Foss, who's the president of ALS Finding a Cure. The next slide, please, Molly. I would love for you to tell people about this.
Sure. Thanks, Merit. You know, we started ALS Finding a Cure, it's almost 6 years, Merit, believe it or not. And it was really founded by a great friend of mine for 40 years who we have since lost, Leandro Rizzuto. And Lee was the owner of Con Air in Cuisinart. His daughter-in-law, Christy, contracted ALS at 41 years old. And Lee came to me and said, look, let's put together a group and really try to find a cure for this disease. I'll fund it. Helped me put together a medical advisory board, and we started back then with 4 people as our main board members. And by the way, they're all still there and working away. So Merit was the first one. Merit, Stan Appel, Bob Brown, and Clive Svensson were the basic core nucleus that we that we started with way back then, and then began to fund research. Over 50% of what we funded in the past 5 years has been really gone towards better understanding the biology of the disease and the disease population, so target identification. The biggest single project would be Answer ALS, where we've invested almost $12 million on the part of ALSVAC, but helped raise another 30. And it's really a longitudinal study to get deep biologic data from 1,000 patients and 100 controls. And through that, we'll build subgroups and be able to really understand some of the basic biologies and where we might then begin to go after those areas with therapeutics. I also like to point to one item we're all very proud of. Is we've had 3 articles in the New England Journal of Medicine in the last 4 to 5 months. And I think that's just a tribute to our team and their capability. One of them was Amylex, which was 2 young boys I met in Rudy Tanzi's lab a few years back from Brown. They're from Brown University, and they had an idea. They were actually working on Alzheimer's at that point. And Merritt said, why can't we try this with ALS? And so now I'm sure many of you have seen the press releases. Amylex is developing very, very nicely with some good data and providing a lot of hope for what may be come down the road. So significantly, I look and say, there's actually a few therapeutics out there now that we didn't have a few years ago, even though we focused mostly on just basic research. And now comes, the HEALEY platform, which is incredibly exciting and something that, like many of our team, when you take good ideas from anywhere you can find them, as Merritt said, this isn't something we invented. There were other people using this in other diseases like cancer. And this really gives us a platform to accelerate therapy developments and greatly increase the treatments that will be available over the next few years. So we're excited to be part of it, Merritt, and delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me today.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Troy. So with that, I think Sabrina's is going to give us a little update on where we are on the platform trial since our last update. And I will say that we have now IRB permission to post the videos from our prior ones, and they'll be going up by the end of the day. So we're going to try not to repeat before and just give all the updates. So, thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Merritt. And we can go to the next slide. And thank you, Troy and Peter. It's really great to hear from all of you and really think about the inspiration from this project. We're so excited to provide weekly updates. And as for those of you who have been following us for a few weeks, you'll see that we continue to make progress, and we want to continue to stay in touch and provide updates and opportunity to ask questions. So next slide. As you know, the HEALEY ALS platform trial offers several benefits over traditional trials. Most importantly, it can cut down the time to finding new effective treatments. And we're doing that by testing multiple treatments in parallel at the same time, and also by continuing to add treatments to the platform so that we can make progress faster together. All the treatments that we call regimens were selected by ALS scientists based on a competitive process. So the goal here is to test the most promising treatments in parallel in a way that's time effective, cost effective, and so that we can bring new treatments to all patients with ALS. And by doing that, using a shared infrastructure that we call the platform infrastructure, we can also do things that would be normally not possible if we were to test each drug one at a time. We can do things like sharing the placebo group. And by doing that, from a patient perspective, that means that it increases the chances of being on active drug versus placebo by 3, which is obviously excellent. So more people will go on active treatment than placebo. And then at the end of the placebo control period, we also offer an open label extension for people who are in the trial. So I think it's a very patient-centered design. And really, this was made possible because of the contribution of so many and so much patient input into the design. Next slide. So we opened with the first 3 regimens, zilucoplan, verdiperstat, and CNM-Au8, and we are working towards adding the 4th regimen, pridopidine, and we should be able to launch that very soon by the end of the year. We are also in discussions with 3 additional companies for 2021. So again, we're testing multiple treatments now, and we will continue to add more. And really, because of the progress and great progress with enrollment, as I'll share in a second, we are really accelerating the time to test drugs, and we're really testing drugs at a much faster pace than was ever possible before. Next slide. Enrollment updates as of today: 152 individuals with ALS signed informed consent, and 111 are currently on studied drug. If you have any questions about enrollment, please feel free to contact our patient navigator. The phone and emails are on the slide. Next slide. We have 28 sites that are actively enrolling. If you go to our website, you can find the updated list with all 28 sites and their contact information. Also, we are well on our way to activating the remaining sites. Many of them have already been IRB approved. So the goal is to enroll, to activate as many as possible soon. And then we're also going to issue a call for new sites so that we can add more sites in 2021 to expand even further. Next slide. This is the list of sites that are enrolling as of today. It's 28. So for those of you who have been following us every week, you've seen this before, and every week we emphasize or highlight the one that is new. And so this week we just activated Columbia University, and the other ones have been active from before. So this is the list, and again, all the contact information is on our website. Next slide. For more updates, we will continue to have the weekly Q&As, and again, we were just approved to post both the slide decks, so you can get access to the PDF as well as the videos of all the previous recordings. Next slide. As always, we want to leave most of the time of these weekly updates for your questions, and so please feel free to type your questions and we'll take them live.
Yes, please, questions for Sabrina, myself, or for Troy, or Peter, or all above. One question, Sabrina, what's the actual placebo for regimen C? I know it has to look exactly the same, but is there anything in it that would not be good for someone with ALS?
No, I mean, yes, it has to look exactly like the active drug. There's nothing that wouldn't be good for an ALS patient. And it's actually a drink. Yes, you're correct. The regimen C is basically a liquid formulation. So it's a drink, both the active and the placebo. And you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two.
I think just to stress, it's inactive, so there's nothing harmful in it.
Right.
And that you have the same FDA rules about safety go for the active as well as the placebo. There's a question unrelated to the platform, and I'm happy to maybe start with this one. Would you care to comment on the breakthrough research reported by Dr. Benjamin Siegel from Ohio State University? And I'm happy to talk about it. First, I actually do think it is breakthrough. There's a lot of use of the word breakthrough. I mean, almost every article on ALS says breakthrough, and so one has to comb through when it really is a breakthrough and when it isn't. But what they report is finding a new type of immune cell, and that can help repair damaged axon and help them regenerate. And Dr. Siegel is an MS researcher, but this is another example of people crossing fields, and the huge advantage of having dialogues between different specialists. So all their studies in mice, so it's very exciting, and there might be a way to turn that into therapeutic, but it still is far away from human use. But it's interesting, and there's really this new last, I think, year or two, I'd say, that a real new push in science to understand how to repair and regenerate axons, not just for ALS, but for other neurological illnesses. And there's several companies, one called Disarm, that have programs that fix axonal repair. And Peter and the ALS Finding a Cure, we actually had a think tank in August about axonal repair as an area that we might want to support in the coming year, because we're at that stage where we can actually talk about regeneration and repair, and I think Dr. Siegel's work is right along that pathway. Very exciting. Okay, this is for you, Sabrina. The 3 or 4 treatments, are they aimed at delaying, stopping, or reversal? And are you separating treatments between those themes? Let me answer that first, and then I'll go to the rest of that question. You're on mute. Sorry, Sabrina.
Sorry. Yes, so you know, all the treatments that were included in the platform trial that we will continue to include are based on science, preclinical data, and early trial data in other patient populations or in previous ALS trials. And so essentially the goal here is to do everything possible to slow down and hopefully even stop the disease. Obviously, we don't know the extent of the effect until we try the drugs in a larger group of people with ALS. So I think we always, you know, obviously even slowing the disease will be a meaningful outcome. Hopefully, you know, when we test them, maybe we will identify some that can actually stop the disease completely, but we won't know until we test them.
Yeah, thank you. So there's from the same person a question about the sites in San Francisco, whether they can support remote trial testing or not. And so we have amended the protocol at the master level. And this is the advantage of a master protocol, to allow some of the visits to be virtual and to allow some home blood draws for safety. But the only time we want to do this is if it's really a COVID related, like someone can't come because of COVID or the city's shut down, because the best still is for in-person visits so that we can collect all the outcome measures so that we can tell if the drug works. So all the sites can do this now. Now it's, but it's still complicated because there's a nursing shortage in the United States, COVID. So even though we have a company contracted to provide home nurses, they don't always have available close to each site. So we're working through that, and it might be that the San Francisco site right now we haven't been able, or the company we've contracted with can't find a nurse to go there. So this is another one of the challenges of COVID, but the teams are working through it. But I do want to repeat that the best thing for a trial is actually seeing people in person so we can get all the outcome measures. Related is maybe for you, Sabrina, patients are not able to choose the treatments. The reason why I ask is because something done orally might be able to be done remotely.
Yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, Merit, you know, the best situation for everyone is if people can go and do the critical study visits in person. We minimize the number of in-person study visits, but they're still important. And they actually don't depend necessarily on the route of administration of the drug. So in the trial, we have both oral and sub-Q. For both, it's important that some of the visits are done in person. But again, we do have processes to have some of the visits remote if it's needed because of the pandemic. Yeah.
And I can answer this one. Have we received any feedback from patients that are currently in the platform trial that have had any adverse reaction to any of the drugs? If so, who would they contact? So we are always monitoring safety throughout the trial, and the participants, if they have any side effects, will contact the site that they're enrolled in and let the doctor and the nurse and the coordinator know about any of that. And those are then reported centrally. And we have a medical monitor that looks at that monthly, and we have a data safety monitoring board that meets often as well. And in fact, they're meeting on Tuesday. So far, no serious or really even not serious side effects, but it is early days. But as in any trial, the safety is monitored really closely at multiple levels. So maybe this one for you, Sabrina. I didn't qualify as a participant for the first 3 platform drugs. Can I try again for future drugs, or is the qualifying criteria the same for all?
So we do have qualifying criteria at what we call the master level. So what this means is that we are targeting the same population for essentially all regimens. And then within each regimen, there might be some additional inclusion-exclusion criteria if needed for safety. So I think that at this time, the criteria are the same for the master target population. In the future, the trial could adapt, but for the foreseeable future, I think that the main master level criteria will remain. And they were based actually on extensive work done in collaboration with our statisticians, with input from the patient community as well, to really try to maximize both access to trial, but also statistical power, which is important to be able for us to tell if the drugs work or not. And that's why, unfortunately, not everyone can be included.
Yeah, I think it's important to ask your neurologist about other options. There are other trials that have different criteria. So again, the goal is to try to have some option for everybody. And along that way, someone asked about the expanded access program, and we're really excited to build that. We think the first one will start in the new year, 2021. We have commitments of drug from 2 companies, and we're, thanks to many of you probably on this call, we've been raising funds for the expanded access program as well. But we anticipate that that will be available in hopefully January 2021. And it would be for people who are found not eligible for the HEALEY platform trial. So I'm hoping that will help a lot, these type of scenarios. So someone's asking about study eligibility criteria, and we have presented that before, but maybe Sabrina, you could do the high level of that and where to find those.
Yes, exactly. So we didn't repeat them on this slide deck. They are present in previous presentations that are on our website, and also you can always find the full list of inclusion/exclusion criteria on clinicaltrials.gov. If you want the direct link, you can also go on our website, and it will bring you to the right page of clinicaltrials.gov, where it lists all the criteria. I think that the main criteria are that we are enrolling adult individuals with ALS. There's no age limit as long as somebody is at least 18 years of age, so that there's no upper age limit, and people can be included based on a kind of a combination of criteria, including being within 3 years from symptom onset and having a vital capacity of at least 50%. I think those are the ones that are most commonly asked about. People can be on riluzole, people can be on edaravone as long as they are on a stable dose.
Thank you. So the question about C9 trials, are there any available for people with ALS from C9 mutations? And so that I can answer that quickly. First of all, people with C9 ALS are eligible for the HEALEY platform trial, as well as most other ALS trials. There is one specific trial for C9 by Biogen, which is a gene therapy trial. That's not currently recruiting right now, but could open up again for recruitment. And there's also, actually, there's a second one in Florida of metformin for people with C9. But there's a ton of companies with C9 drugs coming forward in the new year. And if I had any more time left in my day, I would say we need a C9 platform trial, big time. And I think someone needs to do that. So we've been trying to get that word out, because given the number of companies for C9 drugs, again, it would be much faster and better for patients if it was done in a platform type approach. So we'll keep that on for the future. There's a question here for you, Sabrina. The number of participants listed as on, quotes, on study drug is actually the number of active participants either on the study drug or possibly on placebo. Is that correct? So when we present our numbers,
yes, when we present our numbers, the people who are listed as on study drug could be active or placebo. Again, keep in mind, placebo is only a third of the total number. We can clarify for future presentations. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Someone is going to go to U of W in November for screening. Can you speak to what minimums are required, breathing tests, blood tests?
Yeah, so again, the inclusion-exclusion criteria are on the website. You can go to our patient page on our website, and it will bring you to the clinicaltrials.gov page with all the list, the entire list. So I would think that, prior to the visit, it's good to talk with your neurologist and study team to discuss anything in terms of medications or supplements that might be good to know about ahead of your screening visit, because people cannot be in the trial if they're taking another investigational product, or if they are actively participating in another clinical trial, and there's a very short list of supplements that are exclusionary. So if you have your screening visit scheduled, I think it would be a good idea to review your detailed list of medications, because in case you are on something that's prohibited, it could be, that could be stopped, like a supplement, for example, and allow a washout of 30 days. So I think that's always important to discuss with your team ahead of time.
Thank you. So based on the current participants on drug, have there been any side effects that we should be aware of? So we have not seen anything unexpected yet. Again, it's early days, but each of the drugs, when you enroll in the study, there's a consent form that lists the known side effects for those drugs based on their use in other diseases. But again, in the early days, everything's been good. And we do have this data safety monitoring board that meets and looks at unblinded data with people on drug and people on placebo. And if there was any risk, they would have the ability to, change the consent or, modify the study. But again, we haven't seen anything worrisome. Any good statistics from trial participants yet? Sabrina, do you want to take that?
So I think that the main statistics is that the trial is enrolling very well ahead of schedule despite the pandemic, and we have excellent, data capture, etc., from the site. So I think that's the main statistics as we are running the trial. Obviously, we don't know the results, but it's important that we can continue to get high quality data, and that's certainly happening. So I would say that for that, the trial is going well from the point of view of achieving the goal of testing the drugs, and so hopefully, we'll have the results, over the next few months.
Yeah, we're really, based on the rate of enrollment, we're expecting to have the results at the end of the summer, probably, on all 4 drugs. And that, again, is the power of the platform trial, that instead of having 1 answer, we're going to have 4 answers, which is great. Some quick questions, because we're almost out of time. Are you accepting patients from Canada? Sabrina?
So we don't have a restriction. However, I do want to be mindful of the fact that there are some, restrictions in terms of crossing borders. So we leave this up to the investigator and the patient on a case-by-case basis. If people can cross the border due to their specific situation, that would be a possibility. But again, there are significant restrictions at this time.
We have 2 questions about familial ALS, so I'll answer them both together. One is whether these drugs are geared towards familial ALS, and the other is kind of related. Are these drugs for familial ALS? And so anyone with familial ALS could participate in the HEALEY platform trial, and I do think based on the biology of the drugs that would make sense. But if you have a genetic form of ALS and there's a gene therapy for your form, like for example, the VALOR study for SOD1, if you were my patient, I would recommend that you go for the gene therapy trial for your form of the illness. But these would be really good discussions to have, obviously, with your neurologist as well. So maybe you could address curcumin, Sabrina. So the question is, I was told curcumin is a supplement that needs to be washed out for 30 days, week to be fit included.
So curcumin, yes, needs to be washed out because it is currently being tested in a clinical trial at Duke University. And you're correct, for this particular supplement, it's a 30-day washout. That's why it's very important to check all the supplements ahead of time with your neurologist so that you can make sure that you can wash out whatever is needed prior to the trial in screening. Yeah.
All right, I think on our last question, we didn't get to all of them, but we'll try to answer one-on-one for the ones we didn't get, which is they want to know when we're coming to Spectrum in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I first thought you were inviting us to Michigan, which I don't think we can do right now, but I understand the question. Sabrina.
Yes, I don't have the specifics for that location right now, but we can definitely look into that and get back to you.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us for our Blitz weekly update. And most of all, thank you for being interested in the trial and being part of it. Thank you, Troy and Peter, for joining and your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.